Leadership is the ability of a person or a group of people to influence and guide other people. A leader and leadership are not necessarily the same. Anyone has the potential to influence and guide other people. Some people have authority as our bosses, to supervise, manage, direct, and control us, but they may not necessarily be good leaders. Leadership is different to management. Leadership involves motivation, to positively impact people and encourage them to follow or go with the leader. Effective leadership empowers, inspires, and enables change in people. There are many different leadership styles appropriate for equitable and inclusive education. Here we'll mainly focus on inclusive leadership, transformational leadership, servant leadership, and democratic leadership. Good leaders often reflect aspects of these different styles. You can get more information on all these leadership models in the additional readings provided in this module. Leadership in equitable and inclusive education are processes and actions to improve equity and inclusion in education. In this model, we are looking at this leadership in two parts. First, approaches and activities of a person or people providing the leadership. And second, the outcomes of leadership addressing equity and access in education. Successful educational leadership will reflect principles of inclusion and equity in education, such as access to leadership processes, understanding and respecting others, treating people equally, caring, supporting, valuing, and loving people no matter who they are, and helping, collaborating, communicating, and empowering people. Dr. McMaster identifies the essential elements of inclusion in education as having a positive understanding of us and others, reflected through respectful relationships, shared experiences, openness, and transparency. So there's a strong alignment between equity and inclusion education principles and principles of good leadership approaches in education. In summary, good education leadership is concerned with people's education needs and working with others to achieve equitable and inclusive education outcomes for everyone. Let's look at some leadership styles that reflect these attributes appropriate to achieve equitable and inclusive education. Sometimes effective education leadership requires a mixture of compatible techniques. Inclusive education leaders are actively open to the different views and thinking of people. They talk to people and listen. Leaders who do this help others feel included and get information and ideas to support decision making. Inclusive education leaders collaborate, empower, trust, and support people and are authentic, humble, and actively involve others. Some examples are: first, the Senior Director of Education bringing community leaders, school principals, and department offices together for planning and discussions. Second, a Community Learning Center principal sharing responsibility and working with staff. Third, teachers helping and supporting each other. A study of schools in Cyprus identified features of leadership where inclusion and approaches were successful when involving flexibility, adaptability, creativity, broad collaboration and engagement. Leaders build connections across the school and in the community. All stakeholders, including children, had opportunities to engage in the leadership processes and resultant activity. Transformational educational leadership focuses on change based on justice and democracy, and critiques inequitable education practices to achieve better outcomes through action. Transformational education leaders influence, inspire, and encourage people to achieve positive change. In this approach, the leaders, the education processes, and the learners can all be transformed. Transformational education leaders, first, help people to challenge their assumptions and act outside the box. Second, listen to, include, and work with others. And third, proactively respond to known and unknown challenges. Jack Mezirow explains how transformation can come from or result in disorientation. We all face disorientation when confronted with COVID-19. Many education systems, teachers, learners, and parents worldwide had to respond quickly to teaching and learning from home. Most struggled to change their well-established in-person education to online teaching and learning. However, some teachers, schools, and communities transformed their teaching and learning, and this required teachers to challenge their assumptions and teaching practices. Teachers considered how to support every learner online and how each learner was different by circumstances, abilities, and resources. Successful teachers in schools can continue to show educational leadership as they share learning benefits that broadly address access and equity issues in education. An example could be in a mixed religious community. A teacher investigates why some students from a religious group are not attending. She changes her teaching so everyone feels more comfortable to attend. A servant education leader puts the needs of others first, reflecting the leader's attitude. Such an attitude works well with other leadership styles, such as transformational leadership. When teachers serve the needs of students, their students also learn this attitude. Such an approach is clearly aligned with addressing access and equity issues in education. Research shows that when school leaders, including teachers, approach leadership with a humble and serving attitude, they encourage a more positive learning climate, which leads to better student achievement. Democratic education leadership is where group members participate in the decision-making process. It is fully inclusive and relies upon open discussions. It strives for consensus. However, participants need to be fully informed to make good decisions. An example of this could be where the school has regular open community meetings where parents are invited to participate, make suggestions, to even vote on decisions about their school. Here we have presented some ideas about education leadership. Effective education leadership in schools and communities is inclusive, focused on transformation for a better life, and cares about others, particularly the students or learners. Different people and groups of people initiate leadership and can be leaders. The school or institution principal or director and individual educators play pivotal roles in setting the approach of education leadership. In the next video, we will have some further examples of educational leadership in action through some case studies.